Bloating after every single meal isn't supposed to be your normal, but for so many people, it's just become the price of eating. You finish a meal that felt completely fine going down, and 20 minutes later, your stomach has transformed. It's tight, it's swollen, it pushes against your waistband like there's a balloon expanding behind your belly button. Maybe you've started wearing looser clothes just in case. Maybe you've quietly stopped eating certain foods in public because you can't predict what your body will do. And every time you tell yourself the same thing, it's just water weight, it's just something I ate, it's just normal. I need you to hear this clearly right at the start. If you are bloating after literally everything you eat, that is not just water weight, and it is not something to shrug off. Your gut is actively trying to get your attention. And today, we are going to break down 3 hidden, medically real reasons why this keeps happening to you. Reasons that have almost nothing to do with willpower or what's wrong with your diet in the way you've probably assumed. We're going to talk about why your digestive system might be working against you without you even realizing it. And by the end of this, you're going to have an actual roadmap, not vague advice, but specific, actionable steps to start fixing this. So stay with me, because the second reason on this list is the one almost nobody talks about, and it might explain exactly why certain healthy foods seem to bloat you the worst. Let's start with something that might genuinely surprise you, because it goes against everything you've probably been told about regularity. You can use the bathroom every single day, like clockwork, and still be quietly backed up inside. This is one of the most overlooked causes of constant bloating, and it has to do with how slowly things are actually moving through your system, not whether you're going or not. Here's what happens. When stool sits in the colon longer than it should, even if you're eliminating daily, bacteria down there don't just wait patiently. They start fermenting whatever is sitting there continuously, hour after hour. That fermentation produces gas. And that gas doesn't just disappear, it builds, it accumulates, it creates something like an internal traffic jam. So then you eat your next meal completely unaware that there's already a wall of trapped gas sitting in your gut, and that new food essentially crashes straight into it. The result, almost immediate distension, pressure, that overinflated feeling sometimes within minutes of eating. This is what's known as dysmotility, basically your digestive system moving too slowly, and subclinical constipation, the kind that doesn't look like constipation on the surface because you're still having bowel movements. But underneath, things are moving at a fraction of the speed they should be. So what actually helps this? The first thing is fiber, but specifically the right kind of fiber, introduced the right way. There's a real difference between soluble fiber, the kind found in foods like oats, which absorbs water and forms a gentle, gel-like substance that helps move things along smoothly, versus harsh, insoluble fiber, like raw wheat bran, which can actually aggravate an already irritated, slow-moving gut if you add too much too quickly. A lot of people here eat more fiber and dump a bran supplement into their routine overnight and then wonder why they feel even worse. Gradual is the key word here. The second fix sounds almost too simple to matter, but anatomical alignment during elimination genuinely changes how completely your body can empty itself. Something like a squatty potty works because it changes the angle of your body in a way that relaxes the puborectalis muscle, a muscle that, when not properly relaxed, can leave you feeling like you never fully finished, even when you think you have. And third, movement. Something as small as a 10-minute walk after a meal physically stimulates peristalsis, the wave-like muscle contractions that push food and waste through your digestive tract. You don't need an intense workout. You need consistent, gentle motion that tells your gut it's safe to keep things moving instead of sitting still. Now here's where things get more specific, and this is the part that tends to make people sit up a little straighter because it explains something that's confused a lot of people for years. Why do certain healthy foods, the ones you're told you should be eating more of, seem to bloat you worse than almost anything else? Broccoli, garlic, onions, foods that are genuinely good for most people, and yet for you, they feel like a guaranteed ticket to discomfort within the hour. This often comes down to a condition called SIBO, small intestinal bacterial overgrowth. Under normal circumstances, the vast majority of your gut bacteria are supposed to live in your large intestine further down the line. But sometimes that bacteria migrates upstream into the small intestine, an area that's supposed to be relatively bacteria-light because that's where a lot of nutrient absorption happens. When bacteria end up living somewhere they're not supposed to be, and you eat foods that are naturally high in fermentable compounds, those bacteria don't wait. They start feasting almost immediately the moment that food leaves your stomach, and the fermentation that follows happens fast and close to the surface, which is why the bloating from SIBO often feels different, more immediate, more upper abdominal, sometimes visible within 20 or 30 minutes of eating rather than building slowly over hours. If this sounds like you, there are real structured ways to approach it, not just guessing. One option that's been studied specifically for this is a temporary low FODMAP diet where you reduce short-chain fermentable carbohydrates for a defined period, typically 2 to 4 weeks, essentially cutting off the food source those overgrown bacteria have been thriving on. This isn't meant to be a forever diet, it's meant to be diagnostic and corrective, a reset. Another surprisingly powerful but underrated fix is simply giving your gut space between meals, leaving 3 to 4 hours rather than snacking constantly throughout the day. Your gut has its own built-in cleanup system called the migrating motor complex, sometimes described as a sweeper wave that activates between meals to clear out bacteria and debris from your small intestine. But that sweeper wave can only do its job if you actually give it time to run, and constant snacking essentially interrupts the cleanup crew before they finish the job. And if this pattern has been going on for a while, it's worth knowing that there's an actual, simple diagnostic tool for this. Gastroenterologists, including specialists at places like the Cleveland Clinic, use something called a lactulose breath test, specifically to identify SIBO. You don't have to keep guessing in the dark on this one. Now we get to the third reason, and out of all of them, this might be the one that feels the most disconnected from food, but is actually deeply tied to it. Chronic stress, specifically what stress does to your stomach acid. Your body has two main operating modes when it comes to your nervous system. There's the parasympathetic state, often called rest and digest, which is the mode your body needs to be in to properly break down food. And there's the sympathetic state, fight or flight, the mode your body shifts into under stress, whether that stress is a real emergency or just the slow grinding pressure of a stressful week, a stressful relationship, a stressful job. Here's the part most people never connect. When your body is in fight or flight, it actively redirects blood flow away from your digestive system, because in that moment, your body has decided that escaping danger matters more than digesting lunch. That redirection halts the production of stomach acid and digestive enzymes. So food that enters your stomach during a stress state doesn't get broken down properly. It sits there. It lingers. And undigested food sitting in a low-acid environment doesn't just wait quietly. It starts to putrefy, ferment, produce gas, and that gas has to go somewhere, which usually means more bloating, more discomfort, often hours after the meal when you've already forgotten how tense you were while eating it. This is why two people can eat the exact same meal and one person feels completely fine while the other feels like they swallowed a brick, because the food was never really the variable. The nervous system state during the meal was. So what do you actually do about this? There's a simple technique sometimes called the 5-5-5 breathing rule, taking 5 slow, deep breaths before your very first bite. It sounds almost too small to matter, but those few seconds can genuinely help shift your heart rate and nervous system out of fight or flight and into a state where digestion can actually function properly. Chewing matters far more than people give it credit for, too. Digestion physically begins in your mouth, not your stomach, and food that isn't broken down mechanically through chewing puts an enormous burden on a stomach that may already be underproducing acid. Aim to chew each bite around 30 times, which feels excessive at first, and then starts to feel like the most obvious thing in the world once you notice the difference. And one more tool worth knowing about: a tablespoon of apple cider vinegar diluted in water before a meal has been used by many people to gently support healthy stomach acid levels, which can help food break down the way it's supposed to instead of sitting and fermenting. Before we go any further, I need to say something important, because this video is meant to help you, not put you at risk by encouraging you to self-diagnose something serious. Bloating, even constant, frustrating bloating, is common, but that does not mean it is always something you should just manage at home. If your bloating comes along with sudden, unexplained weight loss, blood in your stool, nausea that won't go away, or severe pain, please do not try to fix that yourself, and please do not wait. Those are red flag symptoms for conditions like celiac disease, inflammatory bowel disease, or other gastrointestinal issues that genuinely require a doctor's evaluation, not a home remedy. Knowing the difference between uncomfortable and dangerous is part of actually listening to your body, not just powering through it. So let's bring this together. 3 real, distinct reasons your gut might be bloating after every single meal. A slow-moving digestive system creating trapped gas your new food keeps crashing into. Bacteria living in the wrong part of your gut. feasting on healthy foods the moment they arrive. And a stressed nervous system quietly shutting down the stomach acid, you need to actually break food down in the first place. 3 different root causes, 3 different fixes: movement and the right fiber, a structured approach to bacterial overgrowth and calming your nervous system before you even pick up your fork. None of these require you to fear food. They require you to understand what your specific gut has actually been trying to tell you this whole time. So here's what I want to know. Out of these 3, movement and motility, bacterial overgrowth, or the stress and stomach acid connection, which one sounds the most like your gut? Drop it in the comments below. I genuinely want to know which one hit closest to home for you. And if this helped you connect a dot you've been missing for a while, do me a favor, drop a like, subscribe for more evidence-based deep dives like this one, and check the full checklist linked in the description so you can start actually working through this today. Stay healthy, and I'll see you in the next one.